There are a lot of incredibly talented point guards in the NBA. Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Chris Paul, Kyrie Irving and Kyle Lowry have been dominating the headlines for that position in recent history. And for this reason, many really talented point guards go under the radar. Guys like Mike Conley never get the props that they are due. But this video isn't about Conley. It's about another incredibly underrated point guard who has been off to a great start this year. And that player is none other than Jrue Holiday, the point and shooting guard wizard for the New Orleans Pelicans this season and the past 5 seasons. This video will cover just what makes him so good as a player before taking a deeper look at the New Orleans Pelicans and whether or not they have what it takes to make it to the playoffs in this year's deep Western Conference. The first thing that jumps out to me is that despite being in the league for 10 years, Jrue is only 28 years old. This means that he has an enormous amount of experience playing NBA level basketball, but is still in his athletic prime. Basketball is a game of skill first and athletics second. For this reason, you have guys like Vince Carter still in the league at 41, and exceptionally skilled players like Kyle Anderson maintain their place in the NBA despite being athletically overmatched by almost every single other player in the league. When players have both skill and athleticism, they are a force to be reckoned with. But for most NBA players, the level of skill they need just doesn't come immediately. They need to develop. If they make it to 10 years in the league, you can bet that they've developed a varied skill set. But at this point, they're usually 31 to 33 years old, and their athleticism has begun to decline. Then this weird thing happens where as their athleticism declines, their skill rises, and they manage to add a similar amount of value on the court as they did before. Now obviously this theory varies, and some players don't develop their skills, while others have their athleticism drop at a fast enough rate to see them out of the league. But for Jrue, he has developed his skills in 10 years. They are refined. And his athleticism is still there. He still has the lightning fast reflexes, the great lateral movement, and a burst of speed off of the dribble that allows him to get past his defenders and to the rim. For the next 2 to 3 years, he'll be in the perfect storm of athleticism and skill, the absolute prime of his basketball career. And you can see this on the court. Holiday oozes confidence and truly believes that he can beat every single point guard in the league when he plays them. And the majority of this belief comes from his defensive ability. Holiday is simply amazing to watch on defense. He has some of the best instincts and discipline that I've seen in the league and puts the clamps on even the best players. This year he has locked down Westbrook, Lowry, McCollum, John Wall and others, all while playing fantastically on the offensive end of the court. So how does he do this? Holiday has a decent wingspan of 2 meters, but this isn't incredible compared to some of the athletic freaks of the league. Like most defensive players, it boils down to 3 things: effort, preparation, and instincts. The effort part comes in 2 ways. You first have to have the speed required to be effective, and then have to be willing to pour energy into the game. James Harden has the athleticism required to be a good defender, but he simply doesn't have the energy to do it in the regular season due to how much he has to contribute on the offensive end of the court. Holiday does. He is an incredibly fit player and seemingly never looks tired on the court. This is despite him being 3rd in the league in minutes per game and really only getting 2 short breathers per game on the bench. But tune in and watch a Pelicans game and you will see Holiday hounding players, chasing them through screen after screen and springing back into a strong defensive stance to stop them from driving into the paint. But the effort on the court isn't enough alone. Holiday puts the work in off of the court to ensure he is prepared. You can tell this as he never misses a defensive beat. He knows when to go under screens, when to go over them, which players to hedge off, when to switch, and when to double in the post. This knowledge is incredibly important to having a defensive impact on the court. You can be a great one-on-one defender, but if you don't know the team coverage, then it won't have that much of an impact. For example, if Holiday went to switch on a pick and roll, but Davis knew he was meant to drop back in the paint as the big man wasn't a threat, then all of a sudden the guard is wide open. These little things pop up over the course of every NBA game, and they matter. They cost teams points and cause coaches to trade their hairline for wrinkles on their foreheads. Minimizing them is key, and Holiday does a fantastic job of this. The last thing with Holiday defensively is his instincts. He has a fantastic natural feel for the game and knows when to get into the passing lane, when to try and strip an opposing guard, and when a player is going to shoot or pump fake. This all results in steals, blocks, and deflections, and just makes him an absolute nuisance on the defensive end of the court. And it's for this reason that he was awarded First Team All-Defense last season, an incredible reward for the years of effort he has poured in on this end of the court. But that effort goes beyond just defense. Holiday is an amazing offensive point guard and has been running the Pelicans well all season. Jrue is a wizard in the pick and roll, especially with Anthony Davis, and has consistently shown the ability to get downhill and create for this once-in-a-generation talent of a teammate. Holiday can throw lobs, bounce passes, wraparound passes, and every kind of pass imaginable to Davis out of the pick and roll, and gets Anthony easy points despite the entire defense being fixated on him. And after playing with him for 5 years now, Jrue knows when to look for his own shot and when to get him the ball. He's become a master of reading the defensive coverage and immediately recognizing when he needs to get downhill and get to the cup. The two have fantastic chemistry and their pick and rolls are near unstoppable when they get going. But Holiday is more than just a pick and roll partner for Davis. He can create for himself in the post and off of the dribble. One of my favourite ways that Jrue scores is in transition. He's always surveying the floor and how many players are ahead of him. If there is no rim protector and his defender is in a bad position, you could bet your house that Jrue is getting downhill and blowing past them to the rim. These easy points are the exact reason why the Pelicans push the pace and are in fact third in the league overall for pace. Holiday is also fantastic at distributing the ball in transition. He's always on the lookout for Davis streaming down the middle, Nikola Mirotic rushing into the corner or a wing three, or each one more filling whatever lane is required of him. And these players know that Holiday will give the ball up and they work harder as a result. All of the players on the Pelicans roster work hard to get out in transition, and this is crucial to their success in the area. Without the effort, there's no point trying to play fast, and Holiday's willing passing is a huge motivator in this regard. The willingness to give up the ball is also the reason that he is second in the league in assists per game, but it is also a factor in why the Pelicans look to play a second point guard on the court with him. Jrue is 6'4" and can guard twos just as well as he guards ones, so the Pelicans have looked to play another point guard in Elfrid Payton and Tim Frazier this season at times. This allows Jrue to split his time between on and off ball. When Jrue is off the ball, he adopts the role of a scorer a little bit more than when he plays on ball. He runs hard around the court, cutting back door and running off of screens to get open. When he does get that little bit of space, he is fantastic at using it to get to the basket or shoot an open mid-range or three-point shot. This season he has been fantastic at the rim, shooting 68% from within 3 feet, and he's been fantastic from the mid-range also, making 48.8% of his shots from between 10 and 16 feet from the basket. These results and his confidence in taking these shots has resulted in him scoring a career-high 20 points a game to go along with his 8.8 assists per game. This makes him one of the most well-balanced guards in the league, showing it is possible to be a great distributor and scorer on the same team. And all of this has been while his three ball hasn't been dropping. Jrue is shooting 26.5% from deep this season, while his career average is 35.5%. This is most likely a drop in form, and the Pelicans will be praying he can get back to his career average. It would help him bump his scoring average up even more, and would force teams to give him more respect on the pull-up three from the pick and roll. I think part of this problem is just form, but it is also slightly indicative of a bigger problem within the Pelicans. They simply don't have that much three-point shooting on their roster, and the spacing suffers because of it. The Pelicans rank 20th in the league in three-point attempts, and 22nd in three-point percentage. All of this despite playing the third highest pace, which you would think would result in more threes. The problem is that outside of Nikola Mirotic and Etuan Moore, you don't have any dedicated three-point specialists. Davis can hit a three when he needs to, but you want the spacing for him and you don't want him to be the one who has to create it. And the same is true for Holiday. These are the two guys you are trying to open the court up for, and while it's great that they can hit threes, it isn't the solution. When you go down the bench of the Pelicans, you see Julius Randle, who is having a great season but isn't a three-point shooter, as the only truly talented bench piece. Then you have absolute career role players filling out their roster. Darius Miller is the only bench piece who can consistently shoot threes at a decent clip, making them at 36%, which is good but not great. And despite this, he only plays 20 minutes a game due to him being limited defensively and not really being able to contribute in any other way. The Pelicans are crying out for anyone else who can make a three-point shot, and this shows the inability of the front office to build around their stars in Anthony Davis and Jrue Holiday. When you realize that you have a once-in-a-generation big man talent, the first thing you should do is build for the long term and slowly acquire good shooting role players on decent contracts and young talents with first-round draft picks. All of this has to be done without mortgaging cap space and maintaining flexibility. Now, I don't deny that this is a hard task, but the Pelicans have done one of the worst jobs I've ever seen at building around their star. In Anthony's first 7 seasons, they had never put a roster around him that has depth, shooting, or solid defensive players. Instead, they have mortgaged the team's future by trading away draft picks for short-term solutions and signed free agents to bloated contracts. I've previously done a video on this, but all you need to know is that Davis is the only player on the team that they drafted in the first round, giving them no players that they've developed on the league's best contracts. And while Jrue Holiday is a great point guard to go along with him, Mirotic has been hot as Hades this season, and Julius Randle is a revelation off of the bench, the three of them aren't enough to create a contender. Instead, the team will be fighting to even make the playoffs, with the Western Conference tougher than it almost ever has been. But making the playoffs isn't the biggest problem for the Pelicans. The bigger one is Davis leaving. Their star is almost 26 and has only 1 year left on his deal before he can opt out and become an unrestricted free agent. The Pelicans have this year and next year to convince him to stay, and I don't think they can. He has never had a great team and they won't have the cap space to go out and create one this off-season. The Pelicans at front office will have to pull out all the stops to create a strong team for next season. Otherwise, they will have to genuinely consider trading Davis before he walks for absolutely nothing. But this is an issue for NBA fans to ponder later this season and next year. For now, just enjoy the magic of Davis and his incredibly underrated two-way wizard in Jrue Holiday. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you think of Jrue Holiday, Davis, and the New Orleans Pelicans.